You want to see something really scary?
You bet.
Tear your soul apart.
Jesus Christ!
No, it's not.
Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized.
We gotta, of course, get into the big one, the one that's killing the box offices right now. We gotta talk about Scream 5. Or Scream, which I totally get why they went with the one title thing. I'm still calling it Scream 5.
This is the point of no return for spoilers. We're getting into it
Yeah,
now.
we're going into it.
They even kind of make fun, they poke fun of that in the movie when they're,
Exactly.
people just like you and I are on a YouTube channel, like, why would you call it Stab? It's Stab 8. I mean, because that was the big fusion with Halloween, the 2018.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but I hate that name. Like, at least put some kind of subline.
I would have called it Halloween Awakens.
It's so annoying, and I feel like Scream kind of did that on purpose, and then they called it out in the movie.
Yeah.
But
same thing with Candyman. I mean, as much as I love Nia DaCosta's Candyman, I would have called it Candyman Gentrified or Candyman Gentrification.
Wow, yeah. It could be Nia DaCosta's Candyman. Like how technically the original Halloween is billed as John Carpenter's Halloween. You know, something like that to just make it stand out.
Something like that. The beautiful thing about the recent Scream is that they are very much at the forefront. They got that Scream always seemed to pop in at the right time when stuff needed to be talked about. Yeah, Halloween, Candyman, and they all just kept using the same title as if it's. I never liked it for the very simple fact is like that's kind of egocentric to think that you can just swipe the same title and assume that you're going to make something on the same level as the original. I don't get it. It makes no sense. Fortunately, the trend has said that we've had some pretty good movies as a result of it, so I'm willing to forgive it. But not superior to the original.
Yeah.
Though an argument could be made that the recent Candyman is pretty fucking great. I loved it. Loved it. So when I found out that Scream was just going to be called Scream, I was like, but wait a minute. This is Scream. This is a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, my suspicions were proved right. Of course, Wes Craven passed on prior to this point, and while Kevin Williamson did stick around here as a producer, I was totally good with it at the second I heard that the guys behind Radio Silence were making it, because they made the wonderful Ready or Not.
Oh, they're great. I had the opposite feeling. The moment it was greenlit, I was against it. I mean, I was truthful. I said, I'll be the first one in line to give them my money and see it. And I was. When it's something you love so much, I just want to say, like, let it go. We had our characters that we love. They have their arc. And I don't think I could see Sidney Prescott die. And for me, I'm thinking the only way you could really do this and make it different and shocking is she would be the Drew Barrymore that dies in the opening scene.
Or the Adrienne King.
Yeah. I don't want to see this because she, as we just spoke at length, she had such a good arc. And the arc is done. And I want to say, let it go. Let them live their lives.
And I'm happy to say that at the end of this movie, I feel like finally the characters actually can, because like any good movie like this, and you can definitely feel like the Halloween movies are leading towards the idea that Andy Matichak's character, Allison's going to be the one to take the torch from Laurie Strode. I feel like that's where we're going with Sam Carpenter and even Tara Carpenter. Actually, I'd even love it if the two core characters, if they continue on from here, are these two sisters.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a lot of feelings once we start talking about the future of the franchise.
When Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette were all back for it, when I realized that this is the route they were going to go for, well, one of the major things that a requel does is that it sheds the dead weight of the bad course of action that the franchise takes. I mean, of course, a good example. I mean, Candyman flat out ignores Farewell to the Flesh and Day of the Dead. I knew that Marley Shelton was going to die.
Which one?
Because Deputy Hicks, or in this case, yeah. Sheriff Hicks. Yeah. I knew she was going to die because what is the one thing that a requel does is that it sheds the dead weight from the franchise that went bad. And immediately I should have saw that this is what the motive was, because a toxic fan would want to get rid of the things they consider to be dead weight from a franchise. And so many people who hated Scream 4 would want to get rid of Deputy Hicks.
Yeah. Well, and I love that Mindy, who is our new Randy and Kirby, who I think Mindy was amazing. That actress, I love her. I love the character. She calls it out that they're like, Wes is saying, well, do I have to be worried because my mom is Sheriff Hicks? And she's like, no one cares about the shitty sequels. You're fine. And like, I love that was kind of.
I was like, oh, immediately I was like, yes, actually the thing is toxic fans do. And it's the hypocrisy of toxic fandom. If you hate something so much, why the fuck are you talking about it?
Yeah.
Why do you waste hours upon hours dwelling on it? Like, it's about love. And I'm like, no, it's not, buddy. You're pissed. And unfortunately, you're getting pissed about something that in the grand scheme of the world is inconsequential.
Yeah.
Fuck you, dude. Seriously. Yeah. And that's kind of pretty much what I've been saying to every anti-Last Jedi extremist, every kind of person who is hating on anyone who's eager to take a franchise. This is the battle I've been fighting recently with Doctor Who over the past couple of years. Yeah. No, if you go on my comment section on my video about The Timeless Child, so many people are so mad that Chris Chibnall is taking the license. And it's like, he's the showrunner. It's his responsibility to move the show in a direction that could potentially keep the show creatively fresh. It's his responsibility. It's what he needs to do. If it's not a popular course of action, guess what? Another writer might take it over down the line and make it something special.
Yeah.
But the problem is toxic fans can't see beyond the sphere of the now. And I think my favorite was when Sam goes, you mean to tell me I'm in the middle of someone's fucking fan fiction?
Yes, it's so good because that's really the only way you could keep making this franchise. It's not a big important thing. It's not, I'm surprised your half brother that set it all up from the very beginning. The only way
that's such a fan fiction plot line too.
Is the fans are the ones that are beating the dead horse, keeping it going, and because they just can't let things die.
Yeah, and it's very apt. Honestly, Scream is the one franchise that, in my opinion, has benefited from great timing. Because every installment seems to always come out at the right time in our cinematic culture. Not even horror culture anymore. Now it's the cinematic culture where trends are happening, and Scream always seems to be the right franchise to come out at the right time to comment on it, because they're the ones in the best position to comment on the trend. Specifically in this case, where fans are now taking over the franchise, like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson before them, and David Gordon Green and Danny McBride have taken over the thing they love and are taking it in their own direction. And any reason they're taking any ire or taking any shit is because most of the time, toxic fans, they're people who are pissed because these fans now actually have the reins and they're doing it in their way, and they're pissed because like, that's not the way I would have fucking done it.
Yeah, well, there's never a film, book, show, anything that's going to please every single fan, because that's sort of what's fun about fandom is that everyone has different ideas and opinions. One of my best friends, we just spent all weekend running around doing Scream themed stuff together. She can't stand Hayden Panettiere. And so she hates Kirby. And that's like, but do we get mad at each other? We're like, wow, that we were actually laughing about it. I'm like, that's the only reason I watched that movie. But that's what's kind of fun about fandom. And I think people forget that because they really believe that their opinion is the correct one and the only way to do it. But to kind of write off the coattails of what you were saying earlier, I think the reason these films are doing so well, because yes, we were all apprehensive that Wes Craven couldn't be here to do it. But to me, it doesn't feel like the studio is making these films. It feels like fans We're finally old enough. That's why I think the new Halloween films did so well. You can tell it was made by fans. And I feel like this writing team, this whole team, they are such fans. There's a great interview where they were even saying, anytime we just didn't know what to do, we found ourselves at a roadblock, we would just watch Wes's films and be like, oh, he did that. Cool. Let's just do our version of that. They still kept it. They didn't completely decide to make a whole new thing. They were just, here's a fan, here's our take on it, but it still is rooted in the world that Wes Craven created.
The Scream has the rare distinction where the majority of it is done by just strictly one filmmaker.
Yeah.
For the most part. That's why I said it was such a big deal that Radio Silence took this over, because not only are you making a continuation of this franchise, but it's got to feel in keeping with what came before, particularly since it's the aesthetic and the style and the tone and the pacing is so ingrained. Got to make sure if it feels too different, it's if you go too far one way, it's going to lose its identity.
Yeah.
But man, did they nail it. I thought Tara at the beginning of the movie was fucked. I thought the way Ghostface was going ham on her, I thought, man, she is dead. But then to find out she's still alive.
And then she still continues to somehow kick ass. Little sister Tara is the most badass, strong character in the whole franchise.
Oh my God. Like I said, if they do continue on from here, I'm really excited because they did such a great job establishing Sam and Tara, but even by extension, Mindy and Chad.
Yes.
That made me happy that they survived. I mean, Mindy, I had a feeling would, but I admittedly, even though I thought he was, I will say this though, this is probably the most inefficient Ghostface I've ever encountered. How many people did he stab like crazy, and how many of them survived?
Yep, that is true. That is true.
And given who the killers turn out to be, I guess it does kind of make sense, all things considered.
I was going to say there's no plot holes, because if you think of it, that these people clearly only cared about the ending. They really weren't thinking so much about following through on each attack, whereas clearly Billy Loomis and Stu Macher, they thought out Casey and Steve, and they thought out the principal that really wasn't related to anything.
Well, it's like, how do you get, the thing is, I feel like that was a deliberate choice, because how do you think they got everyone out of the house so they could focus on their core victims? They do something big to get everyone's attention. What better thing to get a bunch of drunken high schoolers out of a house? Kill the fucking principal.
Every time I watch that scene, I'm just laughing. Like, these high schoolers want to go poke at the body of their principal. It is so fucked up, but...
Well, Principal Henry was the kind of guy who would take scissors to kids.
Oh, he was clearly a creep. Like, he was definitely not a good guy. Like, there was something going on there.
He was the Fonz's asshole twin brother.
Yeah.
Headcanon.
The evil twin. There was something going on with that guy that was...
The shark jumped him.
Yeah. Wow. Good reference. I was just so happy when they revealed that Mindy was alive. I then was like, oh, but now Mindy, I almost don't want to see Mindy without her twin. It's going to be so sad. And then when you see
Chad
up with Chad, I'm like, okay, now I can't wait to see these two in the aftermath.
Well, especially considering Martha was so excitedly when they're having a little meeting in her house, like going, oh, good, suspects.
She's telling me, she's like, you have fun, and giving them snacks. It's like, Martha, there's actually a killer, and it's probably one of these people. I love that so much. She's so adorable.
I feel like Cobra Kai should be the core blueprint on how you do a nostalgia cash-in, but you do it right, because frankly, the thing that show has been doing in 4 seasons and has just dazzled me is don't treat any aspect of your fandom with derision. Take it and try to build on it and make it something worthwhile. Because I'm going to tell you now, after season 4, we are all going to look at Karate Kid 3 in a brand new light.
Oh, yeah. I want to go back and rewatch because of that.
To me, I feel like what they did with Scream kind of follows through with what is frankly following what they should be doing if you're going to do a nostalgic property and expand on it, have no contempt whatsoever for your franchise. Because let's face it, I feel like, in my opinion, true love is unconditional. You should love something warts and all. Thanks to the efforts of Joe Bob Briggs, I feel like I've hit a plateau where I don't ever really want to hate anything.
Yeah. No, because there's always another way to look at it. I think that this phrase is way too overused right now, but I'm still going to say it. To me, Scream 5 really was a love letter to Scream fans in that it didn't exclude any of them. It really brought all the fans together, but still being aware of like the things we did wrong, the things that were not fun, but it's still valid. It's still here and real. Like Scream 3, by the way, one of my favorite little Easter eggs, that whole rant we just had about, Kincaid never being mentioned in Scream 4. Now Sydney is married to a Mark with kids. It's got to be Mark Kincaid.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I forgot that his first name was Mark.
Yep, they call him Mark a few times. They never say the last name, but it's...
Well, no, there's a bit of exchange in Scream 3 where he's like saying, you can call me Mark. And she's like, I'll call you Mark when you catch the killer.
Exactly. So she's now married with kids. So they still take things from like, you can hate Scream 3 all you want, but for the people who like it, it's still part of it. And even if you don't like it, to me, it just feels more like a follow through when you're still accepting that as part of the canon rather than like, oh, just kidding. That never happened. Start over. Like we're still committed now. Like even the stuff you didn't like, well, we're committed. We will admit it was silly, but here's how we're going to legitimize it and still make it part of this world.
Actually, I'll say one thing though. This is the first Scream film to make me cry.
Oh yeah.
And you know why.
Yeah.
Because frankly, the one thing I knew was going to happen, because again, I was like going, if we're going this route, one of them does need to die.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is Dewey's time. Dewey's got to go. And I was ready for it. I knew this was coming. I even pinpoint the moment when it was going to happen. I was still not ready. And that to me is a testament of a good filmmaker. And when an audience still predicts a moment, but the moment still delivers on the emotional weight, that's when you know you succeeded. When it doesn't fucking matter if you predict it or not, you still feel exactly the intention of the scene. I cried. I bawled.
A whole
like a freaking
theater.
baby.
It was a really cool experience when he leaves the elevator. He says, "Now I have to go back." The whole theater collectively just goes, "Oh," because we all knew what was gonna come. The only problem I have with it, like, at least one of the legacy characters unfortunately had to die. They've already pointed out in Scream 4 and 5 that it's just ridiculous now that they keep surviving. I don't understand why they then had to really double down on the fact that Dewey's life is shitty. Completely turned his development on its head. Like where we left him in Scream 4, it seemed like he and Gail were going to be okay. And now they're split up. He is just having the worst life imaginable to get killed off. And to me, that was just so mean-spirited for the sweetest character. I don't get why.
Dewey is and has always been at his best when he has a mission, when he has a goal, when he knows that he has lives that he can save. Yeah. That's why I like that even though he kicked him out, I like that he still came in to help them afterwards. Brief time that they have them together. It is interesting, the idea that this time, because every time it was always about Gail going to Woodsboro and sticking around. But I did notice, I was like, actually, this is a change. Dewey actually tried to be a part of her world and probably just felt so overwhelmed by it that he just couldn't handle it. Yeah. And he probably, because the compassionate person he is, probably just felt so overwhelmed he just couldn't handle it and walked away. And it's interesting, most of the time you'd expect Gail to walk away, but it's really interesting that Dewey himself walked away this time because he felt that he was so inadequate for Gail. And I think because he was so simple, at the end of Scream 4, Gail probably wouldn't have gotten stabbed if Dewey hadn't kept pushing her aside or kept trying to keep her out of it.
Oh yeah. No,
I feel like he may have wanted to commit to Gail, to supporting Gail, but because obviously him being the small town sheriff that he was, probably just could not hack it. And he got so overwhelmed that he went back to Woodsboro, but because he knew he did it at the cost of his best friend. And I love that Gail, one of my favorite lines Gail said in this one was, "You killed my best friend."
Yeah.
Not that you killed my husband, not that you killed Dewey, you killed my best friend, which
it's almost more powerful than like, oh, we were lovers. It's like, I get that, but their affection for each other went beyond that. Even divorced, we still, and I wonder, this is where I usually don't normally go into this territory, but I wonder how much of that is true for the real life. I was at an event right before Scream 4 came out, and they were both there, and it was right after they had been divorced.
Yeah.
They were basically reassuring everyone, like, we're still doing they have their own production company. They're still working together. And it seems like they still really respect one another and still really care about one another. And as much as I'm not a fan of trying to get into actual people's lives, celebrities' lives, and I don't know these people, I just couldn't help but wonder if that was sort of their way of saying, like, there's still a love there that's very
we love each other on one level, but obviously not on the conventional level.
It just doesn't have to work that way. But no, I love that so much that they didn't work. And I'm talking about the characters now, fictional characters. They didn't work. They hurt each other in turn, and yet at the end there was still so much love there. And that I love that line. He was the character that's the sweetest character. I'm like, but then we're gonna kill him off. We just really doubled down on how shitty life is. There was no happiness. Like, I don't know. It just,
I suppose in the grand scheme, but at the same time, though, if there's any way, I would rather Dewey go out in a blaze of glory. If he had died and nothing came of it, but I love that afterwards Sam said, if Dewey, that really Dewey did save their lives, that something good actually did come from Dewey's sacrifice. That's how you do it. If you make a beloved character's death inconsequential, that's when you failed. But because his death actually did legitimately help, the hero survive and actually help fight another day, then then it means something. And that's why I was kind of at peace with it.
Yeah, the way he died, I thought was very well done. And the repercussions of it, I was just like, I don't know.
And admittedly, the way it was staged, I like that they staged it in a way that made it definitive, because let's face it, he should not have survived Scream 2.
So let's talk about my favorite Easter egg in Scream 5 that I feel like not everyone is catching. In the scene where Richie is at the hotel watching the YouTube channel of the people talking about Stab 8, if you read the side of the web browser where it has the videos that'll play next, the next up video is interview with Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed. Yeah. So that's what I wanted.
Hashtag motherfucker.
It's now canon. It is there, and it's got in the thumbnail is a picture of Hayden Panettiere. I mean, if you look at all of them, there's another one that's like, Stu Macher, is he alive or dead? But I feel like that one was still kind of, is he like that could be one of those making fun of these fan theory stuff. But the interview, like, that was and it was the first one at the top, very definitive. Kirby Reed is alive. Yes.
That's the one I'm totally good with. Because again, if you watch Scream 4 and you watch the part, she's writhing on the ground. There's no death knell. There's no.
Yeah. And then she's just never brought up again.
and Res Dogs did point this out. It does actually take a while to die from a gut puncture.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So the idea that she is still alive is not that far off. And she only got stabbed, I think, like twice. And okay, we're also going to point out, Gail's been shot in the exact same spot twice in Scream 2 and this. Sydney has been stabbed in the same spot twice. And was still in fighting form. So, yeah, it's not beyond the shadow of a doubt that Kirby could still live from her wounds. So that's great. And given the fact that and that's the other thing I got to get to this one, I really do feel the sense of finality for Sydney and Gail in this one.
Yes.
I really do feel like I'm done with them. They really can move on finally. I love that Gail says at the end, let those fuckers die in anonymity. I'm going to write about Dewey.
Yes.
The one person who actually, and that is a great commentary, frankly, on the press and their tendency to want to perpetuate the legacy of people who don't deserve it.
Absolutely. How many movies about Ted Bundy are there right now?
How many? Or actually, let's talk about the fucker who shot the Aurora theater when Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. That guy did it specifically for the Natural Born Killers thing to become famous.
Yeah.
And people still talked about it. I feel like we've just contradicted our point just by talking about him. But when you do something so horrible that everyone's going to talk about it, people are going to talk about it, and they're always going to want to know what sort of sick, sadistic psychopath is going to want to do it, and we're going to want to know all about him. I feel like we've hit the point now where we need to do a regular tradition on Deep Cuts now.
Okay.
It's crunch time. Basically, the crux of the game is simple. I will give you have to pick a top 5 in 30 seconds. Now, anyone can do a top 5. I'm pretty sure a lot of times we have our preset top 5, set in our heads, which is why we throw in a little caveat to trip you up. So in 30 seconds, now, fortunately, it's not just going to be me challenging you down the line. You will get a chance to challenge me. This is sort of a win Ben Stein's money type thing. I'm glad you remember that show because that show. Oh yeah, amazing.
I remember that show.
So for this one, you have to tell me your top 5 scenes in the entire Scream franchise, but they can't involve the killer.
Okay.
All right. So 30 seconds and go.
Sydney says, I'm a fighter. When Sydney's door opens at the end of Scream 3. Randy and Dewey talking at the ice cream shop in Scream 2. The whole Roman, when he lifts his statue, his trophy, and the head's gone and is like, clearly I'm next. And oh no, you know what? I can't use that. He's a killer. Damn it.
Only got 3.
That's okay. Yeah, I had to retract my other one. I forgot.
You had to detract. You would have had 4, but you know what? Very honorably, you stepped back.
We don't have to count this either, but the one I was also going to say is I absolutely love Dewey's introduction into Scream 2 when his theme music plays and you see him out in the
and Sydney runs out to meet him,
wandering around. So I recently found out that theme music of his is actually from the soundtrack Broken Arrow. And it was put in there as temp music in Scream 2. I believe Marco Beltrami also did.
I was going to say, did Marco Beltrami do the music for it?
So he had created his own version of it, but it somehow slipped through the cracks, and the Scream 2 that came out has Broken Arrow's song in it. And that's why you kind of don't really hear it much after Scream 2. I think in Scream 3, Marco gets to use his version of it. But yeah, it was a total accidental thing that it's from a different movie. It was supposed to be temp. But then I love that in Scream 5, we got the original Broken Arrow.
That is so cool.
Yeah.